Hello everyone and welcome to today's games here on GLL. I'm Toby, joined by Saint, and we've got more Nations Royale coming your way. Last week was a crazy cluster of games across all regions, and I don't see why today shouldn't be exactly the same, Saint. What are your thoughts?
Well, last week sort of set the scene, right? We had the opening games of Nations Royale, and this time we're going to be seeing those winners versus the winners. So this time we should have really close best of fives.
Yeah, I mean, already the first game, as you saw, if you were watching the loading screen as we were getting ready, it's going to be Finland versus Turkey, two of the very best nations in this whole tournament format. I feel like it could go 3-0, but I don't feel like there will be a single game that won't be insanely close.
Yeah, I mean, it was a 3-0 last time they met, right? They met in the semi-finals of Season 2 of Nations Royale. But if I remember correctly, every game went down to the wire, and Turkey was just able to squeak each one. So I'm expecting this to be a pretty impressive series.
Yeah, it could very easily go either way. But let's take a look at the bracket and see exactly how things are looking. So we will be watching the Finland-Turkey match, but as you can see, 3 more games are taking place at the same time. Russia, Kazakhstan will be playing, Germany and Ukraine will be fighting off, and then Czechia and Netherlands will be fighting. So this is, of course, the winners bracket, and we'll take a look at, and then we'll have their upper finals as well. So pretty damn good games going in across the board.
And I was looking at the winner of Finland versus Turkey goes against Russia. Like, there could not be
Kazakhstan.
Realistically, they're going to go against Russia. I mean, yes, there is that upset, but I mean, as a back-to-back games being either Finland or Turkey and then Russia as your 2 matches, that's ridiculous. And if you look at the progression they've already had, obviously Finland beat Sweden, Turkey beat Norway, 2 great regions in their own right. So this this upper bracket's gonna be pretty wild. And based off the teams Turkey and Finland have already beaten, this first best of 5's gonna be incredible.
Yeah, it's going to be absolutely insane, nothing short of it. And to get these, I guess you can say, top teams going up against each other before the finals, that just means that what happens after this is going to be like that much more wild to see. But it has been a little while since last time we had Nations Royale, so maybe there's going to be some surprise nations that can go out and get some wins. I'm looking at Ukraine potentially. If they can upset Germany, then they could make their way through. There's a lot of very good PUBG players coming out of Ukraine, so maybe another CIS brawl could be coming up. Any other nations that maybe go like a little out of the usual ones that you could look to?
I don't know if it's that left field, but the German roster, I mean, Germany's pretty stacked as a region, right? We've seen them time and time again have a team always at the top of PUBG. I mean, right now they don't really have one right at the top, but there's so many players that have been in and around sort of like back in the Pro League structure, in the contenders level. There's quite a lot of Germans, right? So they're one of those teams who I'm expecting to progress quite far. But something that I think is worth bringing up and quite important is the fact that we have that lowest bracket, right? The fact that this Turkey versus Finland match, the loser doesn't go out. You know, they've got another chance. So we might have a rematch later on.
Yeah, could be. We'll see how things are going to unfold. Of course, one game at a time, though. We are headed into Finland versus Turkey in just a few moments. For those of you guys don't know exactly how it works, it's a best of 5. The team captains will veto which maps they want to play in which order. I don't think we can go over. We're only going to be playing Miramar. So I think all maps will be played. But of course, since there aren't 5 maps in the in availability, it's going to be one twice, and that in this case is going to be Erangel. So Erangel to start off with, and should we get all the way to the 5th game, it's going to be Erangel once more. But Miramar, Vikendi, and Sanok aren't going to be the ones in between. And I gotta say again, I mean, I think Sanok is really damn interesting.
Yeah, but we've guaranteed that Vikendi as well. It's something that we've not seen that much so far, because a lot of teams seem to be pushing it to that 4th game, right? But this time we're guaranteed to see a Vikendi match. And I'm really excited to see these 2, I mean, really stacked rosters, see what they can do on the new map.
Exactly. Let's see. They are, as you said, they were stacked, and I can only agree with you, a ton of high-skill players on both teams. That's what I was saying. It could easily go 3-0, but I cannot tell you who's going to 3-0.
Yeah, it could be either way.
It really could go anywhere. We have representation of the very best players in Europe across both these 2 very good-looking teams.
I mean, even if you just go back to last week in PCS in Europe, there's probably 10, 20, maybe even 30 players in here that were in those 24 teams, right? So yeah. I think potentially this might be the most stacked game. I mean, maybe the Russian match will be up there, but in terms of pure like mechanical skill, this game is really balanced, and there's so much on both teams.
It's going to be fun to watch, that's for sure. Let's see. Finland are the first to leave the plane, it seems. I feel like last week, I mean, where previously it's been a little more coordinated in terms of, okay, you go east, we go west, or you go north, we go south. Last week, teams were kind of all over the place, but this time around, it seems, at least for now, that there's a little bit of a bit of divide in how teams are positioned out. No one has opted to go straight towards military. We did see a military game and how impactful it was having control of the island early. But it seems like it's going to be a pretty straight west to east split. Having said that, it could be a little bit of a fight going down over Pochinki.
And that's something we've seen quite a lot, right, so far. There's been a lot of Pochinki contestation. I'm not quite sure why. I mean, it doesn't really offer you anything massive by having control of that central city. And I don't believe we're on esports mode as well. So there's potential there's no cars. But it seems like something that every time it happens. And I'm curious whether that's because some teams want to get that early advantage in a map, right? Because we talk so much about having like a 3-4 kill advantage being really strong on this. So whether the fact that these teams are willing to go for the early gunfight is sort of like a flip the coin about getting that early advantage.
Yeah, could be. Circle is, oh my lord, that's an interesting one. We have 3, make that 4 players inside the circle, and all these guys in Pochinki. Well, hopefully either the fight comes to an end fast, or they get out of there quickly, because they're not really in the place they probably should be. And I think, I mean, yes, had this been just your regular squad game, you could say we'll take the fight and move later. But you're playing 32v32. You got to get together as a team and get going. And right now, at least, there's a bit of a north to south split in between the Finnish and Turkish players. So maybe Finland could back out towards the north side. But of course, there's also the scenario that they just start fighting.
Yeah, we were talking about how that Millie Island can sort of give one team a big advantage going on. But this circle is pretty much as even as you can get. Both teams have easy paths in. Neither team has that initial control of the turn of the map. So this is going to be a really good circle to test the mettle of both teams. And also, I'm looking at sort of southwest of shooting range. I think we've had a few Nations Royale endings there in the past. And especially around that plain, there's so much cover that you can play around that it turns into almost like trench warfare as you use like the plane's little crater. So it's such a fun little ending once you get over there. But we're going to get something like really weird, like a hard west here.
Yeah, there's that's the fun thing to me. We aren't yeah, you never know. We aren't dependent on plane path touchings and all those conspiracies. We aren't. I mean, also this circle is marginally smaller than your esports setting first circle is. So we're forcing people to move more often than not further and also faster, because the circle closes in much earlier too. Normally the first circle doesn't start closing before around 5 minutes. Now, as you can see, it's closing at 3:30. So forced to move earlier, forced to make decisions earlier, and yeah, it's made for some fun engagements in the past, and I think it's going to make for even more fun this time around.
Yeah, those first sort of 10 minutes usually just skirmishing, right? You see the odd kill here or there, but generally speaking, unless you've got like a hot drop as we got in Pochinki, then it's more like testing the mettle of the other team, working out where they are, how you can rotate around them. And then you get to that sort of 10 to 15 mark. It's just absolute chaos as all the teams that start fighting. They all realize that actually we need to start taking map control. And that's when we get this massive like 20v20 gunfight.
Exactly. Now, as you can see, I mean, the Finnish team actually did decide to leave Pochinki. Now the only issue becomes, and we have a car here, but now the only issue is, I mean, how do they get out of there? You don't have enough cars when you leave on the north side of Pochinki, like they did on foot, by the way, to get everyone up towards that northwest side. So either you start taxiing people, or you got to do it some other way. Because as you can see, it seems like they're running through the field, all of them.
Yeah, they're going to have to run all the way to the river and maybe even further. I mean, they can get into the circle on foot, but in terms of like mid game and late game, the fact that you don't have those vehicles can be a really big disadvantage. So maybe this is a chance for Turkey to sort of position themselves in such a way that Finland can't really get a lot of control of it. Because obviously you can't rotate east to west, right?
No, well, I mean that's true, but there's also the other side that maybe Turkey won't get the vehicles they would need, and it seems like they have, and they're also running, and they're running even further away. Oh no, there is a bike. There's 2 guys on it, I would assume too. Oh, now they're gonna get themselves a Dacia, so that's more people picked up. There's a 3-seater down there as well. So there are vehicles. Should be able to make their way towards the circle, but it's gonna take a little while.
Yeah, and that's where we see teams that don't spread out, that sort of drop like 10 people in the same city, and then they realize, well, actually, this is not great, because I think we saw Turkey have like half the team around Rostock, right? There's, even on esports settings, you're only guaranteeing 2 cars there, and without it, obviously, you kind of have to get a little bit lucky that you have enough. So it's always a little bit risky, sort of congesting in those areas early on. But it seems like for now, Turkey's gonna be okay.
Yeah, especially when we talk about how important it is to be able to react fast to circle changes and knowing where your opponents are. If you're playing half your team on foot and you get hard shifted away from, I mean, you can only make your way to the other end of the circle so fast. Here we see Mika as the captain for the Finnish team, getting himself positioned with Kovalevi. I would call this a bit of an outpost, maybe a flank prevention outpost for the for the Finnish team. Mert is up here as well towards shooting range, and I think while we haven't found the place for the final brawl to go down, I would assume at least that that's something along the lines of up here could become like the end game area.
Yeah, generally speaking, you're either seeing shooting range or like that hill to the southwest of it, right? They're the areas you want to have control of in this, and I think we speak time and time again of how map control is like the number one thing you need in this. It's the first thing you want is hard cover control in the middle of the map, a decent front line as well, right? You want to be spread out. You don't want to be in the same compound with like 10 players. So I see Turkey moving into those sort of the power positions around shooting range early is a really good sign for them. We see they're starting to form that front line, sort of south to north, right? Where they have the whole shooting range area, and they can just lock Finland out. Finland's sort of stuck in these two groups. And if they can lock out that southern group from joining up and creating a coherent front line with the rest of Finland, there's a great opportunity for them to take that early gunfight and push the man advantage in their favor.
50-50 split right down the middle. Everyone has a decent amount of space. There are still Finnish players making the run. They've crossed over the bridges, it seems. Yep, they're all coming there. They're running their way forward. And you can see how I don't want to say crucial, but how impactful at least high ground can be, especially when you have so many players against one another. If you have the high ground at all times, you will constantly have eyes on like what general direction at least your opposing team's moving into.
Yeah, Finland are very lucky that Turkey didn't take control of the hill that they're running up to there, because they had that opportunity that they could have positioned a couple of players around the bridge that they didn't take. And if they had done that, they probably could have got 5 or 6 kills. So that lack of vehicles for Finland is putting them in a really risky spot. But for now, it seems like they're getting away with it.
Yeah, exactly. As you can see, Turkey still has some players outside there. That's the Turkish side of the Pochinki drop that is making their way on over. But it's pretty evenly split right now. As I was saying, somewhat of a 50-50 split, maybe a little more circle control in terms or in favor of Turkey right now, but overall I would say it's pretty it's pretty even. Everyone is getting lined up on their fortifications, on their high ground riches, and trying to see what they can see. But I would still expect there's going to be another circle or two to go before we get the proper brawl down.
Yeah, I think the next one is going to decide which team is the sort of the attack and defense.
Attack, yeah.
You generally see that the circle, at least around phase 3, will if it shifts up towards shooting range hill, then Turkey, you need to set up that front line, and Finland need to break through. But it's that phase 4 when you get this sort of the manic fight, the huge gunfight that pretty much decides the game.
2-0, looking over the top. Can't see anyone. That's impressive. I feel like there were more people than trees where he looked into, but didn't get eyes on anything. Let's see. And yep, I think we know now that Finland is the defending team. Now you have your stack of 6 players down by cube without vehicles. How do you get those? Like, how do you make sure they don't end up falling behind enemy lines? Or maybe do you now kind of want them to go behind enemy lines and say, if you just keep running, then maybe they won't notice you?
It could be like your special forces, right, where they just sneak up behind the Turkish roster, and then when that big engagement does happen, maybe they could strike behind and get a couple of kills. But I'm looking for Turkey to try and take control of the north here, because there's a way onto the sort of the western hill that we have that Finland has a lot of control of. You can push it quite easily from the north. So we see that they're sort of pivoting around this position right here. If they can get a lot of players here and start pushing onto the hill, then they can flip it around, right? They can take control of the high ground, which Finland doesn't have a lot of players on because of that group we saw to the east. If they can get control, they can flip it, and then they can be the defense.
Rupture, sending it full speed forward alongside She Created and Apocalypse. They're trying to take control of the bunker. It makes sense. Get some sort of safe space close to your opponents. Now shots are being fired, and I mean, we can only keep them apart for so long. These are both very technical teams, but also for the most part probably two of the most aggressive nations when it comes to these type tournaments. They want to get it done with, they want to get it over with fast. And I think if you're Finland, I mean, that 3-0, or I should say 0-3 from last season is still kind of in the back of their head. So they want to go out and win this.
Yeah, this first game sort of sets the tone for the whole series, right? If you can sort of prove that you're not to be messed with, you're not to be, not to be trifled with, prove you're great in a gunfight here. I mean, obviously, both these teams know, right? They know the other team's stacked. But if you just roll over the other team in map one, then suddenly you have all that confidence, you have all that momentum that you could bring into the rest of the series. So it's really important for Finland to get this first map for me.
Yeah, exactly. Airplane area is will still being played by the Turkish team. And you can see Tavo and the others are like, nope, we know where they are now. Let's not run up there. And also, I saw a couple of Mosins. Haven't really seen those guns too much in play yet. Circle still on top of Finland, but I do feel like Turkey has there's stuff that Turkey can do from the positions that they have so far.
Yeah, the big problem for Turkey right now is that valley that Finland has control of, sort of where we're looking right now, because crossing from there to the western side is so difficult. They need to try and clear it out before they even have a chance of getting across, and then they're getting shot at from all the people on the hill. So I'm looking for that group on the north that we spoke about had a way onto the hill. I want to see them get aggressive, them try and take a gunfight and try and take control of the high ground.
Sakura. Yeah, that's info. I was going to say that's info that there are people down there, but they're going to start shooting at some point soon, and that's exactly what's going to happen. Rip finds the first. We haven't had a single flush yet, and I would assume the rest could potentially be coming in there as well, but maybe we have now found the place that this fight is going to go down.
Yeah, there are still like pot shots going off on the eastern side, but this is going to be the important fight, right? This is the one that will pretty much decide the game. And Apocalypse started off early. They've already got a knock on the hill. So if Turkey can push on that, if Turkey can clear off this hill, suddenly that group in the valley of Finland that was giving them so much map control was at a massive disadvantage.
Mikas is looking over. They know that there are people down there. They're leaving now, though. So, yep, that's good info to give across. Again, remember, Mikas is the captain on the Turkish team. You have 10,000 days on the other side doing the captain for Turkey. So a lot of info given across. Nothing he has to feed to captains, then feed to players. He can say it straight to them. Guys, they have moved away from the compound. Let's just hold this flank now.
And the first kill of the series goes towards Turkey with Dog managing to flush out one of the Finnish players. But that one kill's advantage is not really going to be big. They need to try and turn it into 3 or 4 because they have that map control disadvantage. This fight now is starting to build up to the crescendo on this western edge. As you can see how congested it's getting. There's probably like 6 or 7 Turkish players within about 50 meters of each other now. So I think they need to start the engagement sooner rather than later, right? Because if they leave it later and the circle comes south, they kind of get rushed into taking the gunfight. But if they can start getting these pot shots, as BSD's got on Mikas, if they can start taking down those players one by one now, then it becomes so much easier to roll over them later on.
Yeah, I'd have to think so. Mikas went down as we saw. Captain under fire, needs a medic. I'm sure he has his dedicated medics. I remember when we saw Waggy Jaggy, captain for Denmark last season, or was it the season before, how he, I think it was the season before last season, how he literally had like a designated driver. He had his own little private squad to run around and help him out. Oh, you need a nade, sir? Oh, sorry, here's your grenade, here's your grenade. He had his little crew of minions that he could boss around. That was kind of interesting.
It definitely feels like there's more strategy than you think, right? I mean, it's a fun game mode first off, but you can see, but just by looking at the map, you can see that these teams have a plan in mind. You know, they have that sort of front line that they're doing. I mean, look how many Finnish players are on those west. And I spoke about how if the circle came south, that Turkey were going to get rushed, and this is a great. This is pretty much a great opportunity now for Finland to win out the game. And that is a very Finnish kill feed so far.
Yeah, they need to hold off well here. The push has come over the top side. And as you can see, a lot of Finnish players are coming up to try and kind of fortify this this flank that Turkey is trying to put on. But as you said in the beginning, I mean, we lose 3 or 4 Turkish players instantly. That just takes so much of the air out of the balloon in terms of them having the kind of spearhead opportunity to push forward.
That's a nice nade for BSD, taking down one of the biggest players on the Finnish roster. But they need to start doing more than that. They need to start getting like 4 or 5 knocks down that they can then push off. Because if Finland's able to hold this hilltop, hold the Alamo, then they're going to be in such a tough position for Turkey because they're getting pushed by that blue zone now, right? They have basically a minute and a half to get there.
Yeah, they need to start moving. It's phase 5. It's going to start hurting. If you get knocked out here, you cannot get rest either. Turkey Seems like they have managed to corner off a lot of these Finnish players down the valley. All they needed was to get a foot inside, and now they're starting to do damage. It is still going both ways, and remember, the feat that you're seeing in the middle, the tracker, is not counting knocked players, so it could be way more uneven than what it looks like right now. Finland losing players all over the place.
Yeah, Turkey was just able to split in half that front line and isolate that group on the west, and they've just done so much damage. Suddenly a 10-kill lead in their favor. A lovely push by Turkey there. And I think now it becomes so difficult from Finland to turn around that man disadvantage.
Like a knife through warm butter. They just sent it full speed forward. Initially, it looked like Finland had what it took to hold off. But once Turkey was given control of the hilltop, the Finnish players just couldn't really hold up against it. And they're just continuing this, like, the full-on sprint forward. And it's been a while now since I've seen a Finnish kill. There's lasers coming in, and all the targets of Finnish players.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, it's damage control now. Can you try and at least get like 2-for-1 trades before you go down? And I mean, and no one's getting 1-for-1 trades before they go down right now. Turkey's just slaughtering the Finnish roster. And maybe this is a sign of things to come, because Turkey didn't lose a map in Nations Royale Season 2. They literally won every map they played. And it kind of feels like the same Turkey's back. You know? They're back to try and win for the third time in a row.
This is impressive. Now, there are a few kills coming in for the Finns, but with every single kill the Turkish get, the Finnish players need something like 4 or 5 to even it out. Let's see, 7 to 22. I think those numbers are somewhere around correct. There are a few knocked players here and there, but this should go in the favor of the Turkish team. And I gotta say, I mean, as I said before, I thought Finland actually had it when they initially started holding up and kind of fortifying the hilltop position. It just, in a matter of seconds, they just turned on a dime.
Yeah, Finland, they had that big group that went sort of to the northwestern edge, right? They pushed down the hill and tried to flank the Turkish roster. And I kind of feel like they left the hill a bit exposed. And Turkey recognized that and literally just walked straight up. They took control of the high ground and just started shooting down and taking out that western group of Finland. So I think maybe a bit of over-aggression from the Finnish roster there. A bit of a... not recognizing the sort of the context of the fight, because Turkey had to make that push. They had to push up the hill. If Finland could have just held control at the top, then maybe it could have gone the other way around.
They did so extremely well as well. Noki, you're on your own. Is he going to die to blue? Deny points! Deny points! I like that. Yeah, might as well get it over with as fast as you can. Finland falls to Turkey. Finland had the circles, but Turkey had the aggression needed to push forward and take on game number 1. An interesting one at that, too, because I felt for the first 3 or 4 circles, like, yeah, Finland, I mean, they just gotta stand strong. They're just gonna keep their feet grounded and they'll be fine. But the massive wave of Turkish players just came washing over and there was nothing they could do.
It kind of felt like Finland had that front line for a while, up until about phase 4. And then phase 5, we just had this group that we're seeing here that just moved off. They sort of opened that gap in the front line, and Turkey just spotted that and just exploited it. And were able to isolate, I think it was like 10 or 15 Finnish players down this ridge. And once you have that high ground, there's not really much people down the hill can do, because there's only so much cover you can have when you've got 15 people shooting at you.
Yeah, exactly. And that's got to be the kind of the turning point, right, of this. As soon as they were up on the hilltop, I don't want to say it was game over for Finland, but they needed everyone to be there. And you saw how big of a pile of Finnish players that were still making their way from the south. Again, you need those vehicles to come help out instantly. Like when your friends are saying, help, there's 15 people coming, you're not going to, yeah, I'm kind of still running. I'll be there in like 3 minutes. Nah, that's going to be too late. We know it. Especially with this tournament format. Once, like, yes, you can get that on and off first couple of kills, but once the fight starts, it's done before you know it. Like the fight comes to an end so fast.
And you just have to keep throwing bodies at it, right? You can't take that fight, lose 5 players, and then go, well, we'll move on. You just have to keep throwing at it. And the fact that Finland couldn't reinforce that fight quick enough just meant that Turkey could roll them over with big man advantages, taking out those little pockets of resistance.
Exciting. Well, that was game number 1, guys. We're going to take a short break before we will be back with Miramar in just a few to see if Finland has what it takes to bring it to... Turkey took home game number 1, and now we will see if Finland has what it takes to bring home game number 2. I'm Toby, joined by Saint, and we have got more PUBG action coming your way here from the Nations Royale. Anything, and we talked about the whole high ground situation with Turkey, but was that all, or was there something else you feel like that led to the Turkish win in the first game?
Well, I saw Finland took control of the valley, right? They had that compound, the little garage down the hill. And I kind of feel like maybe they were too spread out. You know, the fact that group was down there meant that they couldn't support when the hilltop got attacked. And I mean, we were speaking for like 3 or 4 circles that Turkey was going to go to that hill and try and take control of it. And it's exactly what they did. So maybe Finland not quite recognizing the strategy that Turkey was trying to do. That they couldn't necessarily read what Turkey was going to do. Maybe it was their downfall that game.
Could have been. I also feel like when... I guess we can call it dexterity versus strength, right? I mean, in terms of having the whole situation where either you're trying to like 600 IQ, oh, but if I put 5 people there and I put 7 people there and I put 8 people here, then these guys could do a flank. In theory, yes, sure, it always works. But when it comes to actually going out and getting all the kills, it can be easier just to pile up and push together like Turkey did. Let's see the leaderboard and see how exactly this game came to an end. Kerpa Honor up on the top of kills on the side of Turkey, and Stratus, Lopez, and Jaxi, all 3, I should say, finding 2 kills.
Yeah, but we spoke, as you said, about that sort of death stack that Turkey did right on the northwest. They got up into that big ball of about 20 players and just rushed into the finish line. And I think that's sort of highlighted in the kill feed. The fact that 21 players contributed with a kill is massive. You know, all those players were trading every time. You know, the first player got a knock, and then the second player stopped him from getting traded. So it was really good teamwork in that death stack, which is pretty impressive, given the fact you have 20 players there, that they're all like able to communicate and able to work together. It shows that however they've got the comms, however they've got the sort of the power structure on the team, is working really well for them.
Exactly. Also, I loved how, I mean, and I unfortunately, I didn't see the name of the player, or at least I don't remember it, but I saw literally one guy just sprinting around on the back line, resting people nonstop. Like, that was literally his job. He was the medic running around and giving everyone morphine shots. That was pretty interesting to see. And also, well, surprisingly effective, right? When you just have 1 or 2 people that just run around and rest everyone all the time. But we've headed over to Miramar, and now let's see what was a pretty simple split west to east last game. This time around, Impala, at least for some of the Turkish players, could be a hellhole because they are all kinds of surrounded.
Yeah, it's an interesting decision to put this tiny group like that so isolated from the rest of your team. But it seems like Finland's pretty much doing the same thing with Power Grid. Right? You have both teams now with a sort of pocket of resistance in the enemy land. Right, so it's I think this game now is going to boil down to which team can punish that, right? Which team can take that little group and just shut it down before it is able to strike you in the back.
Yeah, at the same time, I mean, we also have a bunch of Finnish players up by Power Grid who could potentially end up in a similar situation. And once again, we have a circle that's going, I don't want to say unfair. Maybe it is exactly fair. And on each side, that's you ain't gonna be running for a long time there. She created will be the first one down. So for the first time today, Finland finds themselves in the lead.
How the hell did Misa have nearly 300 bullets already? Where's he got all them from? But I mean, that is I mean, at first you think, well, Finland have an advantage, right? Because they have that sort of 8-man group that's on the southwest. But then, how does the rest of the roster get there? I mean, the group on the west has to go through the entire Turkish team. The group on the south has to rotate around Impala, which is going to slow them down. So realistically, unless that sort of 8-man group of Finland can take control of the power positions and hold on to them until the rest can arrive, Turkey should be able to move into the good spots this map.
You would have to think that that's the case. They will be, at least I would assume, able to take over the... And that's the thing, because in squads we talk about what's the better compound and stuff, but when you're so many players on a team, it's not what's the better compound, it's like what's the better square kilometer.
Yeah, it's all about setting up that front line, right? So it's like,
exactly,
how can I properly control half the map by putting people in a straight line? And I think something that Turkey's done so well in the past, and so well even in that first game, was that they were able to work out the sort of power positions, right? They had control of the shooting range, which, yes, I mean, the circle didn't end there. But if Circle had ended there, it would have been even more of a slaughter, right?
Exactly.
They recognize the power of their high ground. So I'm expecting to see Turkey once again sort of go for that Tierra Bronca area, sort of southwest of that hill is so strong. and maybe sort of south of that, and try and stay on the west side for now.
Yeah, we do have Finnish players well positioned inside the circle. They've taken over. At least they're looting up in El Azhar. Haven't necessarily taken it over, because I feel like if all of Turkey decided to push here, then they'd probably get the city pretty simply. Sikora is here with a few other players, and it's good to have them here, both as at least we have somebody there, but also kind of as a, what can we call it, motion tracker. Like, they will be here to track where Turkey goes, or at least they can say, well, they aren't here. So that's going to open up a rotation path for the rest of the Finnish players to maybe push towards them.
Yeah, they can act as your scouts, and really you can play around there, right? I mean, if Turkey are first into the circle, but that Finnish group knows exactly where they've gone, then the rest of Finland can come in and sort of take positions around that, and maybe even try and counter it if they're planning smartly enough. But it looks like Finland's found some vehicles this game, which is nice for them, making that rotation already. So I expect maybe we're going to see a bit of an early ascendancy for Finland in taking those positions, because it seems like they're rotating first.
Yeah, there's a good chance that could be the case. No loops. Aw, no loops. No loop-de-loops for any of the Finnish players. Or maybe? No, they're just getting more cars. Also, I mean, I don't know if I'd say surprising, but I feel like Finland had a chance to punish the Turkish players that landed in Impala. Just send everyone, get the kills. But of course, I mean, then you get, what is that? That would be around 8 kills. But in return, you'd of course lose all kinds of opportunities to get a good position in the circle.
Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't at least send like a 4-man team to take control of this road we're seeing, on the eastern coast. Because they could have at least got like 3 or 4 kills out of it if they did, I think.
I mean, most vehicles will be pretty heavily packed with people, right? So if you blow up one car with 4 in it, that's pretty good for you.
Yeah, you've done your job for the game, though. If you can get that one vehicle, that's your game over. I mean, even if it is your game over, you've done really well. So, yeah, I mean, maybe a lack of planning from Finland. I'm not quite sure why they decided not to, but yeah, maybe they just want to take map control, because it definitely seems like they're all just rushing to get into the circle. They made a beeline to get in. The squares found some non-friendly people.
Yeah, he's gonna get the hell out of that. Didn't know how many vehicles were coming. Didn't know how many people were in those vehicles, and there's no reason to stick around. I mean, you hear a buggy and you hear a pickup truck. In a game mode like this, you have to expect that being 6 people pushing you, right?
You always make that little, because obviously not everyone in your team has the marker above their head, right? So you have that sort of 10 seconds where it's like, is this my teammate pulling up? You have to frantically open the map, check for the little dots, see who it is. But as soon as he recognised that he was being swarmed, he backed off. But now we're looking at this. I mean, look how much control Finland has at the centre of that circle. It's really nice. And if they can continue to stack that area, I want to see him take a little bit more control of the high ground around here, Bronco, and around Azhar. But in terms of early control of the middle of the map, they're in such a good spot. Yeah,
I feel like they were in the last game too, though, which never really led to all that much. So hopefully they their teeth are a little sharper this time around. Let's while we're at it and everyone's getting into the good positions, let's get a listen in to what's happening over in the Turkish side of things.
Elazığ'ın sağ dağı dolu. Apo.
Kanka dikkat et, oraya doğru adamlar oynamış deniyor.
Yo, biz oynamıyoruz. Biz burada bekliyoruz şu an.
Hayır, sizden bahsetmiyorum.
Tamam.
Mid takımından gelen info var. Ömer.
Tamam. Yukarıya attı.
Very informational, very informing there. Can you translate that for us, Luke?
I wish. I mean, I heard the word info. So that I understood that one. But it was definitely calm. You can tell that there's a clear power structure, right? Because you have your captain, and then it definitely seems like he's only in a team speak with the sort of the platoon captains, the platoon commanders, right? So it feels like Turkey has definitely got a plan in mind for how they sort of structure the team, and that sort of structure is really important, I think, in a 32v32, because we saw with I can't remember which team it was, one of the Asian teams, where they literally just had everyone in one call and it was completely manic at some point. So I really like that from Turkey. A lot of teams do it, but it definitely felt like Turkey, you could tell from like how calm they were, that they know what they're doing, that everything's going to plan so far, at least.
Tubsik is the last one to rotate around. Fortunately for him, the Turkish players weren't guarding the gates, so he'll be able to sneak his way through. They still have that one player advantage. Whether that's going to be enough to win it, of course, we don't know yet. Oh, no, actually, there were more. There was one more. One more Finnish player trying to make his way around. A lot of shots being fired already. If we can take a look at the map, maybe we can start getting a bit over, because we have 25 seconds until the new circle pops. And I don't know. I mean, right now, it's very similar to me as last game. You have Finland in all kinds of center, but Turkey is also pretty well positioned on the hillsides they have to play around.
Yeah, but on that Wrangle game, Turkey had a very sort of coherent front line, right? They were all sort of together, and they were able to execute that death stack onto the hill that really won them the game. But this time they're split into these two groups, south and west. And with this circle, they're pretty much going to spend the whole game isolated. So it's going to be really rough. I mean, I expect maybe they'll try and get into Azahar, and we might see a bit of a city ending. But this northern group, it's going to be very rough for the group around Kodaval and Tierra Brunca to have any impact on this game.
Yeah, so you can see Finland has, on purpose, taken everybody out of the city, but instead they're playing all the hills around it, except for the south side, of course. And it seems like they're going to continue to play that way. They're pushing more and more players up towards that west side hill. You can see Poro is up here, Stratus is up here as well. They're still taxiing people back and forth. And well, Mert made his way down. And I'm kind of thinking, because I like their defensive position, but I'm very, very interested now in seeing how Turkey is going to go about aggressing. Because as you were saying, they are kind of split into 3 smaller groups. And how do you... Oops, Mert, that's a no.
Mistakes were made.
Mistakes were made, indeed. But how do you, as Turkey, put on this aggression? Because they have to move. I mean, they're practically all outside the circle. Where do you go, and how do you plan on engaging?
I'd like to see them isolate this group around right now. And it's sort of the west of Azahar, because there's only about 8 people here. They're split into these 2 groups, one on the hill, one on the compound. If they can crash that, if they can maybe take the compound first and then push the hill, they can get like 5 or 6 kills. And even if they're just 1-for-1 trades, suddenly that opens them into a path into Azahar, right? It opens, like, breaks the outer wall that Finland have set up around the city, and gives them an opportunity to get in. Because if that city ending does happen, it becomes a bit of a free-for-all, a bit of a 50-50, right? Because Finland doesn't have anyone in there. But Turkey need to make sure that they have a way in.
That they do. And where is it? What is the path? I mean, I feel like they have to push one of the Finnish kind of defensive positions. It's just a matter of them making up their mind and saying, okay, it's going to be that one or this one. Or maybe just kind of take the bait and say, you know what, we will push into LSR, and then hope that the circle is going to keep going that direction.
It definitely feels like Turkey are posturing towards that western group, and maybe actually it looks like Finland are backing off.
They're forcing them off. Yeah, now they're
suddenly...
Ooh, they have rescinded. They're doing that right now.
Yeah, Finland backed off from the power positions in the circle. They had the compound, and I mean, they're going to get there first, but they had like 5 or 6 players there, and now they've only got 2. There's maybe a window of opportunity here for Turkey to be a bit aggressive, get into that compound, and suddenly take control of this game.
Yep, here they come. They're not afraid to push you. There's a lot of Finnish players coming over the hill, as you can see, but they're a little slow on the rotation. Thunderlust, hopefully he'll get back on his feet, but look at the Turkish presence. They are all here, and Finland just has to back off.
Yeah, they gave it up, and I really don't understand why, but like all of a sudden Turkey go from being in such a rough spot to arguably being the favourites here. I mean, yes, they don't have this high ground, but they have control of over half a circle now with that compound.
That is interesting. Now, I mean, they still have a pretty decent chunk of the circle, the Finnish side, and if the Turkish team has to leave the compound, then of course it's going to be tricky for them to do so. But having said that, Turkey now has a foot inside the door, and they can get all their players in.
And this little northern group is able to lay down so much damage onto the Finnish roster, because yes, Finland can knock them, but there's no opportunity to flush them out, right? So as long as these guys can stay on the hill, this little sort of outpost of the Turkish roster can basically stop Finland from being aggressive at all, and allow Turkey to push up this hill for free and start getting these knocks.
This is going to be very interesting. Nades are being thrown forward. That's a
it's very good
one as well. Smash gets 2. Huth gets 1 more. And that, my friends, is how you deal with a lot of players at a very short time.
And that's where it goes from a pretty even game to suddenly swinging in Turkey's favour. A 4-kill advantage is probably going to be a lot more than that very soon, as Huth gets 2 down for free. There's not even any trading coming. He gets a 3rd.
Wow, speak of a front man, you wonder your team. Hearth finds multiple kills, both with guns and nades, and once again, Turkey is all over the leaderboard.
Yeah, it just feels like Finland doesn't have any way to counter it. The Turkish roster is so coherent, so well sort of working as a team. And they're able to just slowly work their way up this hilltop. And with that long-range cover, it means that Finland can't peek over the top, right? They can't look down the ridge and take out those kills. So it's always Turkey being aggressive. But there's a big fight going on the hill on the eastern side that looks like it's going in Finland's favor for now.
Yeah, Finland are getting quite a few of the kills back that they lost before, it seems. A lot of the players are falling. Therefore, trying to... I mean, Turkey also has to play this one careful, right? Because they cannot just full speed send it into their face. They know that there will be more Finnish players at a distance trying to hold off Anonymous on his own far away as well. That ain't gonna be easy. Looking into the sky saying, oh Lord, can you please just give me a vehicle?
And this is where Turkey now can just slow down, right? They had that initial aggression. Now they can just stop. And Finland has to be the aggressive. But it looks like, actually, Finland, maybe they want to be the aggressive because they've got 3 kills untraded so far.
Yeah, they tried to flank around. They sent a little bit of a squad around the south side, and it seems like it's allowed for them to push underneath. Now, how does Turkey respond? Jupsik is on the side, has vision on 1 billion players. No one seems to realize that he's there.
But he was only able to get 1 down for now. It's a position where he kind of has to get 3 or 4, right? He has to do something massive. And the fact that they've all now just swung around on him, and he's suddenly in like a 3v1 means that first kill really isn't going to be massive in the scheme of things. He does go down. So that little flank, that sort of individual play is really not worked out for Finland. And suddenly it's just swinging all the way in Turkey's favor. And that kill feed is just all Turkish.
It sure seems to be. There was a little bit of a moment of hope for the Finnish players, but now it's swung back in favor of the Turkish. Shots fired. Paul Derek has 1 more bullet left in the AWM. No vest on now either. And once again, Turkey is tanking to the battlefield, and they're finding a lot of kills.
And I think that Jupsik play was a perfect example of exactly why Turkey are doing well, because Finland are relying on those individual plays, right? They're relying on that one guy to go on a flank and get a triple kill. Whereas Turkey, it just feels like they're always working together, always working as like a 3 or 4 man group. That it just seems to get, like, even when they go down, they always get traded, and the other guy always steps in and gets another kill. So I think that's a big reason why Turkey are doing so well, and also why they're back-to-back champions.
Yeah, and pushing over the top now. Again, the numbers that we're seeing on top aren't including knocked players, and I see there are a few knocked players on both sides, so numbers might not be exactly as they are. Misa, Jap finds kills. Is it enough, though? Turkey has 99.9% circle control here, and I'm not seeing what Finland can do at this point, to be fair.
Yeah, it just feels like Turkey are just so much better as a team right now. I mean, yes, mechanically, the teams are pretty well balanced, but Turkey just rolling over them. Like, neither game has been close. Both times, Finland has had the sort of the ascendancy in position, and Turkey's just found a way to roll through them. And realistically now, Misa, once again, left on his lonesome, taken out. There we go. The victory in Turkey's favor. The second map going Turkey's way. And that was rough.
Oh, it was. And I feel like it's kind of the same situation we saw in the previous game, where Finland simply tries to do too much. They have players spread too thin. They try to take control of everything, but you can't do that and have a full-on Turkish team come sprint in your face too. And also the whole backing off of the compound, had they all been on that hill instead of just splitting up, they would have been able to fortify it much faster and potentially hold off Turkey.
Yeah, we saw they sort of abandoned the city, right? They realized that they could spread out around the city and sort of prevent Turkey's access. And then it almost felt like with about 10 seconds to go on that phase 4 shift, that Finland sort of changed their mind. They were like, actually, no, let's put people in the city. And suddenly all those people that had so much map control and putting so much pressure on the Turkish roster just backed off from the compound, went down towards the city, and then bam, that western shift comes in. And because they abandoned the position that was so strong, Turkey was just able to waltz in, take control of the compound, and take control of the hill.
It was again a early game even affair, but once Turkey said this is what we're gonna do, there wasn't really a whole lot that Finland can do to respond to it. Now they did manage to find a lot more kills this time around than what they did last game, so maybe it was just the 2 warm-up games they needed to now win the next 3 in a row. I don't know, but they need to do something, because we're headed over to Vikendi next, and with the way that the first 2 games have gone, I mean, I don't know what Finland can do. Maybe just don't spread out as much. Maybe just spearhead more than try and force engagements.
And usually you look at that Sanok match in like the first two maps is the one where, because it's so different to the rest of the maps, so you can sort of reset and you can come in, you win that, and then suddenly you have the momentum for the series. But you go into Vikendi, which in terms of the way it plays is really similar to a Wrangler Miramar. I mean, it's looking really rough for Finland.
It is, but it's not over just yet, guys. We're going to take a short break, and then we'll be back and ready with the next game in just a few, so stick around. We'll see you in just a moment. Turkey has powerhoused their way through the Finnish defense 2 times in a row now, and I feel like that's kind of been the telling point of how things have gone. Finland been very quick, very fast to rotate to the circles, but once they found themselves there, they just haven't really been able to put up a proper defense line. Now, I am joined by Saint. I got hiccups now. I was eating too fast in the break there for a second. And we have got more Nations Royale coming your way. 2-0 so far, Saint, and kind of repetitive games in terms of how things went down.
You know, I think you put it perfectly at the end of the last one, where it just felt like Finland were trying to do too much every time. They were always trying to, outsmart, outmaneuver the team. And sometimes you just got to take the fight. Sometimes you just got to put yourself in a position where the gunfight will happen and just take it and see if you win. But if it kind of felt like they backed off from a position where they would have been at the advantage because they thought, or maybe we can have like 5% better if you go here instead. And it just did not work out. So I want to see them take like a 60-40 instead of trying to pray for those 70-30s.
Makes sense. Now I was thinking, and I completely lost my train of thought here for a second. But we haven't really. Yeah, it's back. We haven't really seen. I guess that also is partially because it's always Finland who. I mean, they don't get the circles, but they are there, right? So we haven't really seen Finland be the ones who are forced to go aggressive. Do you think that would change anything?
We saw a moment like halfway through that game where Turkey got on the hill and then sort of stopped, and Finland counterattacked. Right, we had that big flank where Yupsik ended up going isolated, but there was like 7 or 8 of them, and they just got shut down. Like they got like I think 3 kills maybe, but there's 7 or 8 of them were killed for it. So I don't know if that was maybe a sign of what happens when a Turkey are on the defense, where the Finland just don't quite have the teamwork to break the Turkish line, or whether that was just a bit of a flash in the pan, a bit of a desperation play. So I want to see what happens when Finland have like 30 up and they're on the attack.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we'll see now, because we are headed on over to Vikendi, the newly less snowy Vikendi, where global warming has indeed become a factor. Dino Land has been expanded. Trains has been plopped down all over the place. And yeah, we're in for some happy times, hopefully. And for the sake of Finland, hopefully we're in for a win, because if not, then they will find their way towards the losers bracket. Now, as you can see, they start the game with a 2-player lead, and maybe that's the key to victory. Just make sure the other team doesn't connect to the server.
Yeah, I mean, if you could make a way to get all 32 not connect, then it's just a free map. So maybe they've got a new strategy that they're testing for this map. But
maybe remakes would come in, then I don't know.
Maybe like one really underrated change to this map for me is that area around Abbey, right? Because there was a massive, almost like a mountain there, right? Yeah, and if you had control of that, you could pretty much stop a team from rotating just at all. And the fact that that's been changed, and the fact that it's no longer strong, means I think fights around there are going to be a lot of fun. But talking of fights, Dino Land's a bit of a cluster right now, as it seems to be the Pachinki/Impala of our last 2 maps.
And also, it's literally dead center in the circle, so makes sense. People want to try a little journey to the playgrounds there. I've had the pleasure of both running around quite a bit in Dino Land, but also like pausing a game and flying around for a while. I really like what they've done with it.
It's a lot of fun to bite in. Yeah, I've had many a fight now in that area, and there's so many angles, but there's not too many. Like there's all these unique places, like battling around the ice right around this area is so much fun. So yeah, I mean, I love the changes they've made, but also it means that it's a position where you can't really control anything around it if you're inside. So even though it's center of the map here, it's like, do you want to control it or do you want to go on the hills around? Now, I kind of feel like the hills are more important.
Sikora finds G created on the bridge, and once again, She-Creator was the first one to go down in the gas station last game too. Gotta be feels bad, man. Just never gets to play.
Maybe he's trying to eat his dinner. He's standing the game early, get his food down. But you're thinking he'd been able to eat at the time of the last match. So maybe he's on dessert this time.
Oh yeah.
I'm curious. Do you think Dynland's a position you want to control in this? Because I'm on the fence really.
I feel like it works a lot like LSH did last game. You don't necessarily want to be in there, but you do want to like control the surrounding area. So if you can spread out around and take control, that makes sense. But then again, we've seen teams try to do similar strats, and well, Finland haven't been successful in trying to split out and take control. So maybe just give it up altogether.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the way Finland and Turkey are playing in Dynland, Finland are all in these like they're all on their own basically. They're spread out individually, and Turkey's just in this little blob, just running around as like a 5-man group. So, like, let's say Anonymous gets a knock on Tukapa here, Dog is just there to trade instantly. If Dog gets knocked, someone else is there to trade. So, I really love the way Turkey are approaching these early gunfights, and I mean the game in general. And I think if you do want to control an area like Downland, you need to stay in those really compact units.
Well, as we've said before, they have great success in this type of tournament, and it's not like they've ever really changed their strategy. I think they have one of those, well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And they're stuck to the same strategy and just kind of perfected it over the last couple of seasons.
And you just see now that those individual Finnish players are just getting picked off. You know, the kill feed, yes, we had that 2-man advantage, but it's 4-2 in terms of kills this game already towards Turkey. Yep. And pretty much all of the kills that Turkey have actually got have been in Downland. You know, all these individualistic players have just not been able to do anything. And we talk about trading as an important skill, right? You know, if you get knocked, you want your teammate to step in and knock the player that's knocked you just every time. If you can keep doing that all the way through, and then one guy gets 2, suddenly you're the man advantage. But the fact that you spread out individually just means you can't do that.
Yeah, I mean, it can be a little misleading because from a viewing perspective, you go, oh, but there's still 20, like if it's a 25-28 game or if it's 23-26, whatever. Those couple of players, like one player can literally be the difference maker in whether a defense line stands strong or falls apart. It's so confusing because you have so many players in a given game, but it's the individuals that end up being like the difference maker.
Yeah, but it's about how many individuals can have an impact as well. Like it sounds a bit weird to say that it's like a team of individuals that need to do well. You know, you need like 10, 15 players every game to sort of have a big impact on the match, to get like 2 kills, let's say, to do well. But every time it is all about, you know, can that individual get the 2 kills? Because if they're in a position where they're like 1v3 and they've got 3 guys shooting against them, then yeah, maybe they'll get 1 knock before they go down, but they're not going to do anything more. But if you're a 3v3 and all 3 of those players then have an impact in the gunfight, suddenly it's going in your favor.
Exactly. Stop shooting each other, guys. That ain't it. Not yet, at least. We can start friendly team killing each other when we're getting closer to the end, but I don't think now's the time. Turbo, he is isolated, lost behind enemy lines, and he's gonna have to stick around for a little while longer to hopefully get his teammates to come rescue him. You can see Dog is jumping around, but A, I don't think he has any clue that Turbo is down there. B, it seems like Turkey, this is going to be their kind of regroup point. All these Turkish players have been chilling in Dynaland for a while now, and I think they're just opting or looking to just stick around here until the remaining players comes down.
Yeah, and I'm not really sure I like that. The fact, because I mean, once you're in Dynaland, you can't really control the hills around. You know, as you said earlier, you want to have the ring around it rather than the area inside. And the fact that they're getting stacked in means that, let's say we have like a big hard shift west now, and there's a Finnish team on that western hill, all those Turkish players are on foot, right? Because, I mean, they haven't left Ireland, they haven't gone for any of the cars. So it's going to be so hard for them to then leave if it goes away.
Let's see, Circle. Send us up once more. Nothing really big and fancy about it. A pretty even split in terms of who's who and what's what. And you can see the Finnish team has started doing their kind of firing line. As you can see, it's a very, very horizontal line across the map in terms of trying to get all the info that they need and trying to maybe contain some of these Turkish players. There's a train coming. Anyone opting to take it? No.
What did they just stick like 6 people on it?
You should take the whole team. Like you wouldn't know. I mean, honestly, you wouldn't know if you were Finland if the entire Turkish teams just jumps on the train.
Where's the next stop? Is it somewhere?
Think of how fast you can rotate like that.
It goes the wrong way.
What about the one that goes to the east?
I feel like that goes somewhere really useful. I mean, maybe that's Turkey's strategy. Instead of using vehicles, they're just going to hop on the train once it arrives. But the problem is, like, how long do you have to wait? Oh, it's coming.
I would love to see it. I would actually love to see them just hopping on the train. All 28 players hop on the train and just see what happens. So I think he's prone down behind there.
He's got a job in the gift shop.
Yeah.
It looks like he's been stealing the outfits.
Oh, that's funny. He was just trying them on, you know?
Maybe he's like a mannequin. He's just showing it off.
Act like he's not there. That makes sense. Smart strat.
I'm looking at where the train goes. Now it comes out like just to the south of Castle, right? You could actually use that to get a really big flank on the on that sort of central group of the Finnish players. If you can get there, you can push west pretty easily. And maybe if that northern group also strikes at the same time, you can pincer maneuver the Finnish front line.
Exactly. It's a gutsy play, but it could be fun to see at least attempted to be executed. It's going to be difficult because you have all the Finnish players sitting pretty close to it. Now let's see Circle once again send us up. Finland. Turkey is still in this position. They're all starting to run back towards the west now. Train is coming in, but I feel like they're a little too late to the party, unfortunately. They do get a flare gun crate, so that's nifty.
They all went for it at the same time.
More people, and they will get their weaponry up.
Yeah, I mean, this could have a big impact on the game, right? Those level 3 helmets you have. I mean, the guns, if you get a couple of orms from that, suddenly you're in a really strong spot. So I think, is it 3 or 4 guns you get from?
I think it's 4.
Yeah, because you see they had 2 MKs at least. And I think it was an AUG as well that I saw. So, I mean, those MKs in particular are going to be massive because, I mean, one team now has level 3, but Finland doesn't have any, or will have maybe 1 or 2. So the MK becomes really strong against those people that don't have the level 3 helmets. I like this spot from Finland. I feel like they need to put more than 1 or 2 players around positions like this, right there.
Yeah.
If you look at how much control you can exert from these ridges, especially that one, the big one we see in the background, if you get a lot of players on there, it becomes so difficult to make this, for anyone to push you because you have so much high ground. You can see so much.
So you hear the train driving off, and once more, there's no one there. Now there are. I mean, the Turkish players have started to make their way down towards the train station. Are they waiting for the train to come back? I hope not, because it's going to be a while. But again, I can't help but keep on saying that I truly hope it's going to happen. Look at how many bold actions are on the Finnish team. Holy moly.
Am I right in saying that the train moves too fast for you to jump off?
No, you can. You can jump off.
So I want to see then is they get on the train, they jump off by that little compound. Then a little spike balls.
We go full on YOLO on someone. Yeah, it's far from a impossible thing to do. I don't think they want to do that.
It might just be that they're not really aware that it's an opportunity. Right? I mean, a lot of these people, yes, they played the map, but I mean, we've seen very limited. I mean, it's competitive when it's, I mean, this is obviously very different to competitive. Are we going to have a Dynaland ending? Hello? Are we just going straight into the Dynaland?
Shifts back towards the west, and all of a sudden, it's actually Turkey who has the, I don't want to say upper hand necessarily yet, but they do have the majority of the space. You can see it's kind of, I mean, the train tracks are the natural, I guess you can say, somewhat natural divider between the two teams as of right now. And I feel like if if Finland has to start push down across the train tracks, that's going to be a bloodbath.
Yeah, I think really the only way in is by the train station. Like there's a decent amount of cover around there that you can use to cross the road. We sort of see Coyote looking towards it right now. But I mean, crossing the rest of the train track, especially on the eastern side of Dynaland, it's just pretty much impossible because it's so exposed. And there's a lot of high ground that you can get in Dynaland. You can control that area of the map. So I kind of want to see the Finnish roster try and get a group into, try and get an expedition into Dynaland now and gain a foothold at least that the rest of the team can flood through later on.
Maybe this is the time where Finland has to play aggressive. Maybe that's gonna turn the turn everything around. We'll see. The train still driving on forward, and I think if you're Finland, you're smart and just waiting for the next circle to pop here.
Yeah, but there is that risk that well, there's a free kill for Turbo. But the problem comes now is if the circle sort of goes west to northwest, the fact that Finland have no control really over Dineland while having this, by having the one T-Rex running around here, like the lack of control, the lack of a foothold in the the urban area means that later on Turkey can just set up and just hold you out, right? So they're sort of relying on now the circle not going hard west.
The thing is, right now, I mean, if you're Turkey, just like we talked about with the Khan Miramar last game, you got killed by one guy, but you have no idea whether there's 1 or 9 people there. I mean,
you can see them all turning around.
They're all pushing towards it, right? You have no clue whether that's just a solo, if there's more people coming. You can see now, actually, there are vehicles starting to pull up towards the southeast side of Thailand.
Yeah, it's a bit of a D-Day moment as Mick has an Upstick lead the charge into the south side of Dynaland, which I'd really love to see right now as Turbo's just hiding. But I feel like Turbo's been a really great distraction here. He's forced like 4 or 5 of the Turkish players to turn around and try and clear out the area. And the fact that he's just staying alive so long is allowing the rest of the Finnish players to join in.
Unfortunately, they can see the gun, or at least they could see the gun. Oh, no, they still can. That is, that's not optimal. That is not optimal at all.
Lucky it's not there to see it right now. But
unfortunately, they aren't here. Yeah. Oh, there he is. Oh, no. Will he see? No, he ran back. Whew. Fortunate.
It kind of feels like now Turkey need to get rid of this little pocket right on the eastern side. They need to push into it now and make sure that the rest of the Finnish players can't join in. But that circle is actually quite nice for Finland because now they're not under pressure to take more control of the city, right? More control of the park.
You just wait for them to have to push out.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to work or not, I don't know. Let's see. The Finnish players are still somewhat spread out, but there are only so many entry points to the theme park, and I guess in this case, exit points. And I feel like all of Turkey has to push through them, unless if they want to run back now and make the way either north or south around. But then they have to do it like right now because the circle starts moving real soon.
Yeah, they still have a lot of control of pretty much everything that's north of the railway, right? But I mean, this big Finnish group here, if they can start picking off players, you see it's sort of happening in the kill feed, if they can start flushing them as well and push the man advantage in their favor, then it doesn't really matter if they have map control or not, because they can just start to roll over the Turkish roster.
You can see there are Turkish players up towards the north as well. Rip is right next to Finland, or at least to some of the Finnish players. That's a far-range Molotov. I'm not sure if that's going to land. Maybe it will. Oh, actually, close enough. A little too far, actually.
I didn't think it would make it. It actually went beyond. But... Well, that one's good. No, he moved slightly. But, I mean, I really like this push on the eastern side from Finland, right? To try and take control of this area. They're getting the kills as well as Thunderloss goes down. If they can clear out this side and give themselves a path to the northern side of the circle, then they can sort of feel confident. They can just start taking that fight in the urban areas and don't have to rely on a bit of luck to get into the next circle, because now they're starting to exert pressure on the map, starting to take control of all the areas except this little bit here.
I like Rip's position, trying to maybe become a nuisance to do and how they can play it in terms of trying to aggress. BSD finds 2. Nice shooting. The kills, I should say, are still in favor of Finland, but there are a lot of knocks coming, and you can see how they're using the train tracks here. They're like the roller coaster tracks. I think that's pretty creative.
Yeah, it's a really good way to get map control, but Metralius just knocks Augie straight off it with the big green gun. It seems like for now Turkey are holding their own, but you look at that kill feed, you look at the Manabus. I mean, you just got melted. 3 people have just been taken down by a big green gun in the space of a couple of seconds, but Turbo Banani's come back in, and the kill feed, the man advantage is still in Finland's favor for now.
See, next circle, this could be the deciding one. Where does it go? It goes out of the park. So now, I feel like I want to see all of Turkey just sent it to the northern exit. Just right down here, because it seems like it's working out. But they're still limited in terms of how do they get out if they stay down on the south side.
Yeah, I think maybe the opportunity here is for them to take that gunfight, right? I mean, if Rip and I can get a bunch of players down here, it'd be massive. But realistically, he's going to go down. You know, maybe one more kill at most, but he's getting shot from range. But if we sort of take that western side, right, where the main fight is happening, if Turkey can clear that out, and push the man advantage back in their favor. It doesn't necessarily matter if they don't have map control because they can, they could just out-trade their way to the win. And this fight here, I think, is crucial to whoever wins this game. And for now, it looks like it's going all in Turkey's favor.
Yeah, I mean, Finland had a pretty decent numbers advantage a little earlier, but that's gone back, and now they're actually behind. Look at this. Turkey are doing a great job despite the fact that they're kind of cornered in the position they're in. They have 15 kills now. Wow, that turned around really quickly.
And what was the 3 or 4 man advantage for Finland? It's just gone and just flipped in a matter of seconds. Just all of a sudden, Turkey in the ascendancy. And I mean, yes, we were talking about not having map control, but if they can take where Upazik is and keep this sort of man advantage, it won't really matter.
They were 27 to 22. All of a sudden, they just lost a ton of players, with Turkey really only losing 1.
Yeah, it's just once again, the Finnish players are going down one by one and not in a position where they can trade. Now, the final sort of team, the final man of this team on the southwest is gone. So Brula goes down. So all of a sudden, that group that we had, that Finland had positioned on the edge of Dynaland, that was basically holding off the entire Turkish roster, is just gone.
That is insane. They had the numbers. They were up by 5 or 6. I believe it was 6 players at one point. And once again, it's those when Turkey starts aggressing, when they say, okay, 3, 2, 1, now we go. Finland just aren't there to respond to it.
Yeah, once again, a testament to Turkey's ability in gunfights to work as a team. I mean, they're just rolling through one of the most stacked countries in PUBG. Not even in European PUBG, just in PUBG in general. I mean, you look at how many great players on this Finnish team, and then you look at how they're being manhandled by Turkey. It's just mightily impressive.
Really, really, really impressive. DA getting kills in there, of course. I mean, it's top-level players across all the rosters on both sides, to be fair. But right now, Turkey has the upper hand, and I don't believe there's anything Finland can do to turn it around. So the nightmare and memories of the last 3-0 will ring for longer, as they will be able to do it once more. And there you have it. Turkey 3-0 Finland once more.
I mean, all the other teams seeing this happening, they must be terrified. Like, I mean, even Russia next. Like, we spoke last week about how strong that Russian team was, but then you see Turkey just obliterate one of the best regions in PUBG. Yep. I mean, you've got to be terrified if you're coming up against them next.
So Turkey versus Russia, potentially, depending on how the Russia and Kazakhstan match has gone, could be up.
I mean, that could be a grand final.
That's your grand final right there. Exactly. It's going to be absolutely insane.
Yeah, I mean, it's just I think a testament to how many stacked teams we have in this. That we can get in the winners semis. We can get something as stacked as Russia versus Turkey, and something that, I mean, should be a great spectacle, because that Turkish team is just looking scary good.
They are really, really good. And I don't want to say they play the same style as Russia, because it seems a little more brawn than brained. No disrespect, but they are very, like, they're not dependent on, but they play a lot out of their, if we can just throw enough people in a pile in here, we will get kills. And it's worked out 3 out of 3 games now. If their push is aggressive enough, they have the skill set in shooting to literally smother the opponents, and that's what they've succeeded in doing.
It kind of feels like everyone they've met so far is split into 2 or 3 pretty evenly sized groups, right? Whereas in contrast, Turkey sends like maybe 3 or 4 players to keep one occupied, and then keeps that main stack of like 22 to 25 players that just goes or rolls over one of the groups. I mean, we saw that game with the Dynaland fight. As soon as that went the way of Turkey, just because of how big a man advantage Turkey had in that fight, I mean, the whole game just flipped on its head and just went straight into Turkey's lap.
Exactly. That was a great affair. We are going to get one more game in for you guys today. It's going to be a lower bracket match, but we do not know yet just exactly who is going to be playing. So you will have to stay tuned for info on that. But I feel like if we have 3 layers, where one is the more strategic side, which I guess you can put Finland under, then you have the full aggression side, which you could call Turkey. And then you have kind of the in-between that utilizes a bit of both. And I feel like that's where Russia fits in, because Russia isn't just 100% centered. They also, we saw them split into smaller groups and trying to kind of do different flanks and whatnot. And I feel like that's kind of where you want to be in terms of strategy.
Yeah, Russia were a little bit more reliant on their individuals, right? At least what we saw last week, where they sort of sent off those pockets of like 4 or 5. They were able to just go and wreak havoc on the teams they played against. But I mean, yes, maybe that sort of different strategy might be the counter. But I think if you look at the way Turkey played, and you think of the fact that they have like 20 players in one group, right? If Russia is splitting up into like 6s, maybe 8, and they run into a 20-man stack, I mean, yes, they could do damage to it, but that overwhelming firepower in Turkey's favor is just going to run straight through them.
You would have to think so. At least, I mean, I feel that you can say if you can do that to Finland and not just, they got lucky one game, but do the same thing 3 times and make it work really well 3 times, then you got something that works. And if Finland can't stop them, then I don't know. I mean, maybe Russia can, maybe they can't. No, what are your thoughts on a hypothetical match prediction for Russia versus Turkey? What's the outcome?
If I was coming into this tournament and I hadn't watched any Nations Royale, I'd say Russia, right? Like purely off the mechanical skill. But then, like watching both teams play, I think this is probably going to be the closest match we'll see in Nations Royale. I mean, we have mechanically probably the most skilled roster in Russia versus, in terms of working as a team in gunfights, probably the best team in Turkey. So that clash of individual versus team, I think is going to be incredibly close. I will say I think Turkey's going to be the favorite, which I mean maybe might be a bit of a surprise to some. I think Turkey can take it, but I think that's the kind of series that I would expect to go to all 5 maps.
I'm trying to think, have we ever had that? All 5 map BO5?
We had one in Asia.
We had one once before, right? There's been at least one.
I think it was 2 last week.
There was a reverse sweep. Oh, who was that? I'm trying to think back now. Where they were down 0-2. It was Greece. They ended up winning it. But who did
Poland?
Could be. It was last season. They were down 2-0 and then just turning it around and 3-2ing their opponent. That was impressive. Something I would not have expected to see happen at all. So I mean, I guess it just means that you can never really count out any given team, because I mean, again, sometimes it's just that one circle that makes it unfair good for you. We've seen that before, right? Where maybe
last week,
the team that aren't as good as the other team ends up getting a win because get like the circle. But let's take a look at the brackets and see how this game impacted things and how maybe some of the other games have come to an end. So this one, obviously 3-0 was over pretty quickly. That one is done and done with. Tomorrow, same time, we will get to see that match. As you can see, Turkey will be playing the winner of Russia and Kazakhstan starting tomorrow at 6 o'clock CEST. Germany versus Ukraine playing right now. Same thing as Czechia versus Netherlands.
Oh, look at that. That Germany-Ukraine match is probably one of the closer games we're going to see as well. Like, you think about the two teams. Germany, yes, they don't really have any like tier 1 players anymore, but their tier 2 scene is probably the best. You have like Meisterschaft, you have back in the days of Contenders League, they were always the region that did really well. And then Ukraine has like all those players that we see on the CIS rosters that are so strong.
Exactly. We've been told that the next game we will be watching is going to be Hungary. You can see it in the bottom down there here in the losers bracket. Hungary versus the winner of the Greece versus Lebanon fight. I say United Kingdom. They're not
out yet.
Up against Sweden. Maybe they will be out of it real soon. Sweden versus Norway. That's gonna be a rivalry match as well. It's gonna be a fun one. What do you have in the top? Poland versus Denmark up against Kosovo, Albania. There's some good ones in. There's some good ones in there, and of course, a whole hell of a lot of pride to play for.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to this Hungary. I mean, you'd expect it's going to be Greece, right? Versus Lebanon, yeah. So you'd expect that Greece could be the one to win that. And I'm pretty sure we've seen a Hungary-Greece before in, I want to say, season 1. There was quite a close game. But both of those teams in the past Nations Royale have done quite well. They've always progressed to at least the quarterfinals. So I'm expecting we're going to have a pretty close game up next.
We will have to wait and see. There's going to be a break, guys. Then we'll be back and ready with the next game. So stick around or get something to drink, take a piss. I don't care. Be back because there's going to be more PUBG coming your way.